On the other side. Left Qing led the two people up the stairs facing the other side of the stone monument, slowly coming to a stop. 001. Black Dragon, 1981 to 1985. Captain, Li Qingqiang, Vice Captain, Shi Jian, members. Kong Zongyongs was Songliang Lu Peilong. 002. Splendor, 1984 to 1986. Captain, Leng Jiangping, Vice Captain. 003. Purple Sun, 1985 to 1990. Captain, Zi Huang. 001. Hero Spirits, 1986 Captain, Hu Xubing, Vice Captain, Gong Yongwan, members. Nye Jinshan Li Qingqiang. 003. Phoenix 2009 Captain, Zhong Qian O Changhong Ma Huijun Feng Chan Xia Siming, Vice Captain, Jiang Guoming, Gudiqing Ning Liang Chaosha. 005. Blue Rain, 2010 to 2012. Captain, Luan Ping, Vice Captain, Wu Xiangnan, members. 002. Medium 2015 Captain, Bu Li Wu Tongxian, Vice Captain. 004. Mask 2012 to 2023. Captain, Wang Mian, Vice Captain, Sun Tianping, members. Li Xian Zhao Weiwei Yu Gui. 005. Nightfall 2022 Captain, Lin Chia, Vice Captain, and Qingyu, members. Chao Yuan Bailey Pangpang Shin Qingzhu Jialan Jiang Air. Lin Chia's gaze swept over these names one by one, finally fixing on the last line, confusion and struggle reappearing in his eyes. After looking at these lists, Wu Quan's eyes showed confusion. Except for Hero Spirits and Phoenix, it seems only Mask Squad existed the longest? The others didn't last more than 5 years, right? No. Left Qing shook his head and spoke bitterly. It's normal for Hero Spirit Squad to last more than 5 years. As long as the Great Xia Dragon Vein doesn't die, they will continue to exist. Mask could rely on Wang Mian's time reversal to avoid many deaths. And the reason Phoenix has persisted until now is because they constantly change and reorganize their members. Most special squad captains don't like to extensively change their members. But the first-generation Phoenix Captain Zhong Qian was a very special woman. Her belief was that as long as Great Xia doesn't fall, Phoenix will not die. She shared part of her Phoenix bloodline with her teammates. Once someone died, she would bring in new members and give them Phoenix blood, which provides extremely strong healing power. And after she died in battle, all her organs were transplanted to the next captain, including the Phoenix blood-making function. This cycle continued, and so far, the Phoenix Squad has changed 5 captains and countless batches of members. Each generation of Phoenix captains shares one set of organs? Wu Quan frowned. Isn't that desecrating the dead? This was the first-generation Captain Zhong Qian's own choice. She did this hoping that Great Xia would always have a stable special squad with the power of Phoenix. They are like an eternally beating heart. No matter what fatal blow they suffer, they can be reborn from the ashes. As long as the Phoenix Squad exists for one day, the Night Watchers will always have a special squad to use. This is the will of her and all generations of Phoenix captains. Wu Quan looked at the magnificent stone monument before him, completely shocked. If Fang Mo and their special squad becomes official, which number would they inherit? Lin Chia, who had been silent, suddenly asked. Left Qing opened his mouth and finally said, "This point is still uncertain, but Wang Mian traveled through time more than a month ago and saved the souls of the other Mask Squad members. Currently, the Heavenly Court is mass planting black tea flowers that can serve as physical vessels for souls. Perhaps before long they will be resurrected. But the number of Mask has already been ended by Wang Mian himself. Even if they return, they will no longer be the 004 Mask of the past, but a completely new team. But the situation with Nightfall is different." Left Qing didn't continue, but Lin Chia understood clearly that Nightfall was completely different from Mask. Mask was completely wiped out, but there was still a possibility of resurrection. But for Nightfall to continue existing, it would require An Qingyu, who betrayed Great Xia, to voluntarily return. It would require Jiang Er, whose soul and body were destroyed, to come back to life. It would require Chao Yuan, who was swallowed by the Black King, to be resurrected and counter the Black King. It would require Brother Zhuai to fully absorb the Hell origin across realms and still maintain his sanity to return. Any one of these conditions was a fantasy, and to fulfill all of them was simply impossible. Perhaps Nightfall was destined never to return to its original form. When we were in the human circle, Wang Mian once said that the fate of special squads is destined to be tragic. Our purpose for existing is to exert all our energy before the tragic end arrives, and after everything is over, to leave our responsibilities to younger people with more hope. Lin Chia's voice was extremely hoarse. He stared at the information belonging to the Nightfall squad for a long time, slowly closing his eyes to hide his sorrow and pain. In his mind flashed the faces of Fang Mo, Lu Baoyu, Su Yuan, Su Zhou, and others, full of confidence and hope, just like they once were. He took a deep breath. The era of Nightfall has ended. Let's entrust our glory and duty to the young people. Hearing these words, Left Qing was slightly stunned. You want to voluntarily give the number to the 6th Reserve Team? Lin Chia, have you thought it through? Lin Chia didn't answer. He just opened his calm eyes and slowly said, Commander Left, can you give me a pen? I want to personally draw a period to our story. Left Qing looked into his eyes and after a moment, sighed and waved for someone to bring a stone carving pen, which he handed to Lin Chia. Lin Chia held the pen, walked to the line with Nightfall, slowly raised his arm and reached toward the end of 2022. At the same time, a mysterious aura emanated from Lin Chia's body. This is... Left Qing was startled, his gaze becoming complex. The heart gate. Lin Chia's heart gate was about to break through. He came to this monument to bid farewell to the former Nightfall, to leave everything to more hopeful successors. Just like all special squads before them, passing on the torch. Similarly, the moment he truly drew a period to their story, it would mean he was severing ties with the past, beginning a new journey accompanied by sadness and pain. The extreme pain and sorrow of letting go. This was the path he chose to break through the gate. After taking this step, he would officially enter the human ceiling, becoming one of humanity's top existences. Guessing Lin Chia's thoughts, Left Qing could only sigh helplessly. This was indeed the only choice for Lin Chia. But just as the carving pen was about to touch the stone monument, a gray shadow surging with divine power flashed across the stone, and a strong, powerful hand grabbed Lin Chia's wrist. This is not our endpoint yet, Captain. That gentle and familiar voice sounded in Lin Chia's ear. At least, not while I'm here. The moment he heard this voice, Lin Chia's body violently shook. He turned his head, and when that long-absent face came into view, he was like a dying person abandoned by the world, finally finding his only support in despair. Endless bitterness and sorrow, grievances, surged from his lifeless heart, turning into tears that fell from the corners of his eyes. He hugged the man, his lips trembling, and uttered that long-absent name. Brother Zhuai. In the next moment, the aura of the human ceiling suddenly descended. Lin Chia had broken through. Having witnessed Jiang Er's disappearance, and Qingyu's betrayal, brothers killing each other, and Chao Yuan's death, Lin Chia's heart had long since died. He was like a drowning person submerged in despair and pain, sinking alone in darkness. To outsiders, he was just trapped by the heart barrier, like a dull patient. But no one else in the world could feel what kind of sorrow lurked beneath that lonely, silent gaze. Lin Chia knew he had to take that step. As long as he couldn't break through the heart barrier, he would forever be useless. And all he could do was abandon everything from before, burying that pain and despair forever in his heart, using them to step into the human ceiling. But when Shin Qingzhu appeared, everything changed. Lin Chia had thought he had nothing left, but now he had Shuaigu. The moment Shuaigu stood beside him, all the pain compressed in his heart melted away, like the only ray of light in a dark, desperate world, pulling Lin Chia back from the abyss of self-denial and struggle. Just as Wu Quan had said, Shuaigu had once been his salvation, and now he was Lin Chia's too. It was a glimmer of hope and despair, a single unexpected turn for the better when all seemed lost. Under this unprecedented emotional fluctuation, the heart barrier, pressing on Lin Chia's heart, was as fragile as paper. Breaking through the heart barrier might only require one person, one sentence, simple yet impossible to seek. Qingzhu Ge. Wu Quan stood to the side, staring at that familiar yet strange figure, murmuring to himself. Shin Qingzhu turned around, seeming very surprised to see Wu Quan here. He was stunned for a moment but still patted the latter's shoulder. You've grown taller. Qingzhu Ge. Wu Quan saw his face and stood frozen for a long time before coming to his senses. This youth, who usually wore a stern face, rushed like a madman to Shin Qingzhu and hugged him tightly. Qingzhu Ge. I've been looking for you ever since I left the orphanage. Where have you been all this time? We can talk about that slowly. Both of you let go of me first. You're getting tears and snot all over me. Shin Qingzhu looked at this scene helplessly, wanting to laugh but instinctively keeping a straight face, his expression extremely stiff. He turned to look at Suqing, his eyes full of plea for help, but Suqing just smiled and watched them, showing no intention of intervening. Amid Wu Quan's heart-wrenching cries, Suqing's peripheral vision caught something. He walked to the side and picked up the knife pen that had fallen to the ground, gently blowing off the dust. Suqing glanced at Lin Chia, whose face was covered in tears, smiled silently, quietly put the knife pen back in his pocket and walked out alone. So, the person who killed Lucifer was actually you? After hearing Shin Qingzhu's description, Lin Chia opened his mouth in surprise, but thinking carefully, it made sense. Lin Chia was present when the gods of Great Xia besieged Lucifer. It was already a miracle that Lucifer could survive under such intense attacks. Meeting Shuaigu, who had just absorbed the origin power when he returned to hell, there was no way he could escape. This way Shin Qingzhu became the biggest beneficiary. If I hadn't devoured him, I couldn't have mastered the hell origin so quickly. With my own power, it would have taken at least half a year to come out. Shin Qingzhu nodded. Lin Chia smiled, then seemed to think of something and fell into contemplation. What's wrong? Nothing, I just feel your return was too coincidental. No, I should say everything was too coincidental. Lin Chia said half-jokingly, thinking about it now, if Qingyu and Jiang Er hadn't suddenly disappeared from the heavenly court and been targeted by Lucifer, the gods of Great Xia wouldn't have had the chance to severely injure him. If Lucifer hadn't been injured, your return would have been delayed by half a year. In that case, Nightfall might have truly disappeared. Everything happened as if timed perfectly, just right. Perhaps this is fate. Shin Qingzhu paused, his expression gradually becoming serious. By the way, about Qingyu, I only heard a brief explanation from Guanzai on the way. What exactly happened during the time I was gone? Lin Chia's eyes darkened, and he recounted everything that had happened during this period. Shin Qingzhu's brows furrowed deeper and deeper. Can the power of truth really change a person so thoroughly? Lin Chia was silent for a moment, then shook his head. I don't know. But I've figured it out now. Lin Chia took a deep breath and continued. Since these things have already happened, I shouldn't dwell on the past. Rather than regretting it 10,000 times, it's better to find Qingyu and ask him face to face. What if he really has joined Cthulhu? Then I'll kill him with my own hands, Lin Chia said calmly. Nightfall can have sacrifices but not traitors. The betrayal of any one person is a desecration of all other sacrifices. Shin Qingzhu nodded without saying more. As the two were talking, a figure wearing a dark red cloak walked in quickly from outside. Captain Lin, Commander Zhua is waiting for you in his office. It was Suiqing's secretary. He extended one hand, making a pleased gesture. Lin Chia was slightly surprised. Commander Zhua is looking for me? Wasn't he just... Lin Chia looked around and realized that Suiqing had long since disappeared. Commander Zhua has important matters to discuss with you, so he's specifically waiting for you in his office. The secretary spoke again. Seeing this, Lin Chia didn't say more, just arranged a meeting place with Shen Qingzhu, then quickly walked toward the commander-in-chief's office. Knock knock knock, come in. Lin Chia pushed open the door and entered the office. Suiqing was sitting in his office chair with a document in front of him, smiling as he looked at him. What's the matter that must be discussed here? Lin Chia sat down across from him and asked curiously. Suiqing didn't answer but asked instead. Your heart barrier, has it been completely broken? Yes. Is there still confusion in your heart? Any discomfort anywhere? No. I feel clearer than ever before. Lin Chia shook his head. The state after breaking through the heart barrier was completely different from before. Previously, Lin Chia's mental power had already approached the ceiling, but he still hadn't broken through that final barrier. Now he had completely taken that step, and both his total mental power and the agility of his thinking had increased significantly. He was now officially one of the few human ceiling experts. Seeing this, Suiqing nodded with satisfaction, pushed the document in front of him to Lin Chia and slowly said, Then I think it's time for you to accept a new identity. New identity? Lin Chia heard these 3 words and his face was filled with confusion. He took the document that Suiqing pushed over, carefully flipped through a few pages, and surprise appeared in his eyes. Letter of appointment? Yes. Suiqing nodded. I want you to be the director of the Night Watchman Special Operations Department, one of the 7 high-level officials of the Night Watchman, and also the position I held before becoming commander-in-chief. Lin Chia was stunned for a long time. You mean you want me to be a high-level official of the Night Watchman? That's right. Why? Suiqing unhurriedly took a sip of hot tea and slowly said, I think you've heard before. When I first took over the Night Watchman, my methods were rather forceful, reducing the original 7 high-level officials to only 4. Although I cut off some of the poison, there were also some minor problems in the operation of the Night Watchman, but I promoted new young high-level officials while distributing the unhandled matters among the original 4 high-level officials, so no major problems occurred. Oh yes, Captain Xiaopinga, whom you're very familiar with, is one of the high-level officials who had work redistributed to him, so he could only pass the work to Yuan Gang and has always had complaints about me. In short, after cutting off those poisonous elements, plus the new personnel changes, the Night Watchmen have gradually gotten back on track in recent years. But among the 7 high-level positions, I've never found a good candidate for the Director of Special Operations Department. I came from this position, so I know best how important this position is. It not only covers the deployment and formation of all special teams including the Hero Spirit team, but also includes the integration of logistics, medical and exploration teams throughout Greater Xia, excluding combat teams, as well as some secret operation tasks that are inconvenient to disclose to others, accumulation of foundation. In short, from a strategic significance, the importance of the Special Operations Department is no less than that of the Commander-in-Chief. Suiqing put down his teacup and looked into Lin Chia's eyes. I've been looking for a candidate for this director position for a long time. Bo Li, the original captain of the medium team, and Wang Mian, the current captain of Mask, were both my candidates. But Bo Li died in battle at Chinen Pass. Wu Tongxian has been in the hospital for too long and doesn't understand the current Night Watchman. Wang Mian has reversed time multiple times, his body has aged severely and needs rest, so he's not suitable for this position either. Now, in terms of strength, status and conditions, you, Lin Chia, are more suitable for this position. As the captain of Nightfall, Lin Chia was originally from a special team, which fully meets the requirements of this position. Now he has reached the human ceiling, and with nightfall now separated and understaffed, he simply cannot continue to fulfill the team's duties. All things considered, in the entire Night Watchman, there is no more suitable candidate than Lin Chia. Lin Chia's expression was somewhat hesitant. He finally understood why Zhuqing specifically asked him to come to the office. Appointing the Director of Special Operations Department is a major matter that affects the operation of the entire Night Watchman. But honestly, he had no interest in being a high-level official of the Night Watchman. Perhaps fighting and killing suited him better. Zhuqing seemed to see through Lin Chia's thoughts and slowly said, "I know what you're thinking. Don't worry, this position of Director of Special Operations Department is not the kind of desk job where you direct from an office. I think you should understand what the 4 words, special operations, mean. For this position, hard strength is far more important than the ability to handle paperwork. To secure this position, you not only need to gain the recognition of all special teams and regular teams, but also personally handle some top-secret or extremely difficult tasks when the special teams are understaffed. Accepting this position means you will become the one who controls the most core forces of the Night Watchman. If I am the visible light of the Night Watchman, then you will become the darkness of the Night Watchman." After thinking for a moment, Lin Chia still said, "I think I understand the work of this position. However, although I've broken through to the human ceiling level, all my divine domains were taken by Kiss. Now I only have human ceiling level spiritual power but no forbidden or divine domains to drive it, so the power I can exert is very limited." Hearing this, Zhuqing laughed lightly. He relaxed against the chair back and said, "Your potential, kid, has been certified by the Heavenly Venerable. Even if chaos can take away your divine domains, some things are destined to be yours. Moreover, haven't you felt something different about your body since you woke up?" Lin Chia was stunned. He carefully looked at his body, recalling the moment when he reached out to support Lu Baoyu in the fasting house. "It seems my body is lighter. Even without using spiritual power, my speed is very fast. Oh right, wasn't my physical body taken by chaos? Where did this body come from?" Lin Chia, who had been trapped in the heart barrier before, had no time to think about this question. Now that his mind was clear, he realized and asked with confusion. Zhuqing smiled mysteriously, "This body is no ordinary one. Let me put it this way, even if you can never use forbidden or divine domains in this life, with just this physical body, you can accomplish many things, understand?" As Zhuqing spoke, he pushed the letter of appointment in front of Lin Chia again. "I know you don't want to fight alone, so I will appoint Shen Qingzhu as your deputy. In the future, if Jialan recovers and you want to rebuild Nightfall, I won't stop you. So what's your answer?" Outside the Night Watchman headquarters, Shen Qingzhu and Wu Quan sat on the steps, waiting for Lin Chia to come out. "Tell me, what did you do while I was away?" Shen Qingzhu took a sip of mineral water and asked calmly. Wu Quan's body trembled and he turned his head to look at him in confusion. "That's a prison uniform from the fasting house under your jacket, right?" Shen Qingzhu narrowed his eyes. "Our Wu Quan has become impressive, entering the fasting house at such a young age. You better tell me honestly. If I sense you're lying, I'll break your legs myself." Wu Quan obediently lowered his head and recounted what had happened before. "Because old Lu was beaten, you wiped out their entire family? Everyone in their family was a villain. Everyone who participated in that gathering made their fortune by exploiting others." Before Wu Quan could finish, a figure slowly walked out from the headquarters. Lin Chia and Shen Qingzhu exchanged glances, smiled helplessly, and took out a letter of appointment from his chest. "It seems we'll be busy for a while. Great summer somewhere. A new director of the Special Operations Department?" Upon hearing this title, Xia Siming couldn't help but open her mouth wide. "Doesn't that mean we have a new boss again?" "I'm afraid so," Tong Xing nodded helplessly. Xia Siming's face immediately fell. She wore a golden cloak, pacing back and forth like an ant on a hot pan in the open space of an ancient village with considerable history. No, this won't do. Left Qing became the commander-in-chief, and the position of Special Operations Department Director has been vacant. We've barely enjoyed a few days of lawless, self-managed life without a boss, and now another boss appears. In that case, won't we be unable to approve our own leave requests anymore? Tong Xing's mouth twitched slightly. Captain, strictly speaking, that wasn't allowed before either. Yes, Captain, you used to sneak into the office and stamp approvals yourself when Left Qing wasn't around. Last time you were caught, he docked half a year of your salary. A member of the Phoenix team cautiously spoke up. From now on, shouldn't we just submit formal reports properly? Xia Siming patted her cheeks in frustration. By the way, who is the new director? The former Nightfall team captain, newly ascended human ceiling Lin Chia. Xia Siming froze in place. Lin Chia. She seemed to connect something in her mind and nodded slightly. Indeed, he's the only one who could take on this position now. Captain, what's the personality of this new director Lin like? Asked a new member who had recently joined Phoenix. I've only met him a few times, so I don't know him particularly well. But he's definitely not the easygoing type. Xia Siming sighed deeply, remaining dejected for a while before suddenly raising her head and speaking indignantly. Forget it, better to rely on ourselves than others. Rather than being controlled by someone else, why don't you all join me in rebellion? Xia Siming can take his place. Horror appeared on the faces of the Phoenix team members. Captain, that's inappropriate. Yes, Captain, he's our superior. If he hears about this, our lives will become difficult. Besides, he's the human ceiling, Captain, you can't beat him anyway. Captain, why don't you try using feminine charm? Under the persuasion of the wise council speaking one after another, Xia Siming spoke with a bitter face. All right, I was just joking. At worst, we'll just report properly from now on. Hearing this, everyone finally breathed a sigh of relief. By the way, according to tradition, when a new Special Operations Department Director takes office, we need to return to the capital tomorrow for a meeting. Captain, we should get moving, Tong Xing reminded, as if remembering something. Oh, then quickly have someone prepare the plane. We'll head over tonight. Let Director Lin see the sincere dedication of our Phoenix team. Xia Siming waved her hand, speaking with grand enthusiasm. A member of the Phoenix team acknowledged and quickly ran toward the distance. After everyone had walked away, Xia Siming sneakily moved close to Tong Xing's ear, thought seriously for a moment and asked in a low voice, Tong Xing, do you think Director Lin prefers soft Zhonghua or yellow Crane Tower cigarettes? Tong Xing. Instructor Lin is going to lead the Special Operations Department? On the crowded green-skinned train, the six of them squeezed around a small square table. Hearing this news, their eyes all lit up. Doesn't that mean Instructor Lin has become our boss again? Suja breathed a sigh of relief and smiled. Indeed, having Instructor Lin looking after us feels more reassuring. From training camp to special team, Instructor Lin has been leading us forward all along. This is good news. Plus, he's broken through the mind barrier to become the human ceiling. Now we're people with a ceiling protecting us. Everyone was very excited. The feeling was like when your favorite elementary school teacher suddenly announced they would follow you all the way to university, and even help with job placement after graduation, giving an unprecedented sense of security. But while everyone was chatting happily, Fang Imo sat by the window, staring outside absent-mindedly as if troubled. What's wrong? Li Jinjin sitting across from him asked curiously. Nothing. Fang Imo shook his head. I was just thinking, if Lord Chier is becoming the director of the Special Operations Department, does that mean Nightfall has disbanded? If so, wouldn't that mean we've stolen a designation that originally belonged to them? Hearing this, everyone suddenly fell silent, looking at each other. The matter of the designation will probably be addressed at tomorrow's meeting. There's no use overthinking now, Lu Jun reminded. We should head to the capital. Yes, yes, yes. We're still the reserve team without dedicated aircraft, so we can only take the green-skin train to the capital. But we've just started our journey. It's more than an hour to the next station. Doesn't matter, let's find an empty spot and jump off the train. Tomorrow is Lord Chia's first meeting as our superior. We absolutely cannot be late. Agreed. Great summer border. Lin Chia huh. In the howling cold wind, 8 figures stood at the edge of the steel outer wall, their black cloaks flapping loudly in the wind. Wu Laogo put his phone back in his pocket, a smile curling at the corner of his mouth beneath the hood. Time to visit the capital. With a slight lift of his fingertip, 8 steel pillars descended from the sky, crashing heavily onto the ground. Powerful lightning coursed between the giant pillars, emanating a terrifying sense of destruction. The 8 figures leaped up, riding the pillars through the clouds, disappearing in an instant. Capital city suburbs. Between the uninhabited mountains, 2 figures stood facing each other in an open space. Wu Quan climbed to the nearest peak, quietly looking down at those 2 figures. Chia, are you sure? Shen Qingzhu extinguished the cigarette in his hand and spoke solemnly. Yes. Lin Chia nodded calmly. Come at me. I need to test the strength of this body. Shen Qingzhu made a sound of acknowledgement, stepping on the cigarette butt. As his eyes narrowed slightly, 6 massive gray wings spread open, and a terrifying main god-level aura suddenly descended. So powerful. At the mountain peak, Wu Quan's eyes contracted as he sensed the aura emanating from Shen Qingzhu. Whoosh! A gray shadow instantly flashed across the ground. The next moment, an earth-shattering boom echoed through the valley, dust flying everywhere. As the dust gradually cleared, 2 figures emerged from the haze. Lin Chia stood with bent knees, one hand firmly gripping Shen Qingzhu's fist, a strange light flowing in his eyes. Seeing his attack blocked by Lin Chia, Shen Qingzhu's face showed surprise. Although he hadn't used his full strength, he was currently a 6-winged angel, and even ordinary sub-gods might not withstand this punch. Yet in front of Lin Chia it was blocked with just one hand. Lin Chia gripped Shen Qingzhu's fist and exerted force, channeling terrifying power directly into their palms, forcefully sending Shen Qingzhu back dozens of meters before he slowly came to a stop. This body... Lin Chia looked down at his own palm, the shock in his eyes growing more intense. He took a deep breath and spoke to Shen Qingzhu again. Let's go again, use your full strength this time. Full strength. Shen Qingzhu's expression was somewhat strange. Are you sure? 80% then. Fine. Under Lin Chia's extremely vigilant battle stance, 6-winged Shen Qingzhu instantly disappeared from his spot. At the same time, Lin Chia's pupils slightly contracted as he twisted his body like lightning, delivering a heavy punch behind him. Boom! As their fists collided, visible shockwaves tore apart the ground beneath their feet, but Lin Chia's body not only didn't retreat, but instead took half a step forward, throwing a second punch fiercely. Seeing this, Shen Qingzhu no longer held back his power, engaging Lin Chia in close combat with full force. Consecutive explosions echoed through the air. In just half a second, they exchanged dozens of blows, to the extent that even Wu Quan, who stood on the mountain peak at the Klein boundary, couldn't clearly see their movements. He only saw the surrounding air and ground constantly distorting, directly creating a vacuum domain. From the dizzying afterimages, a figure was sent flying backward. To Wu Quan's shock, it wasn't Lin Chia without his divine domain, but 6-winged Shen Qingzhu. Shen Qingzhu's wings gently fluttered as he landed on the ground. Looking at the rock-solid figure in the dust, his expression had completely changed. How is your physical body so strong? Lin Chia was at the human ceiling while Shen Qingzhu was a major god. In terms of boundaries, they weren't too different, but comprehensively speaking, the former would find it extremely difficult to defeat the latter. The human ceiling was a human boundary, while Major God was a divine boundary. The human ceiling might be comparable to a major god, but among the many ceiling-level humans throughout history, very few could overpower a major god in single combat. Not to mention the huge gap without divine law, just the species difference alone was extremely difficult to overcome. When a human cuts a god, the god might bleed, but when a god cuts a human, the human will certainly be severely injured. This is a physiological difference. Humans and gods are inherently different species, which is why it's incredibly difficult for humans to become gods. To achieve this, one must face physiological structural changes. Zhou Ping using a sword as his body, see Xiaonan's immortality pill, and Wang Mian's time reversal were all essentially meant to compensate for this deficiency. But now Lin Qie, merely at the human ceiling, could rely on his physical body to repel Shen Qingzhu, a major god. Although the latter didn't use his divine domain either, this was still unbelievable. What exactly is the origin of this body? Besides Shen Qingzhu, Lin Qie himself was equally shocked. He knew the three heavenly venerable had given him a new body, but never imagined it would be so formidable. Without using spiritual power boundaries, relying solely on physical strength to match a major god, could such a physical body really exist? Lin Qie didn't know what this body was, but undoubtedly, even for the heavenly court, this thing was extremely precious, possibly unique in the world. Again, Lin Qie adjusted his breathing and actively charged toward Shen Qingzhu. Shen Qingzhu naturally wouldn't dodge, and the two engaged in battle once more, causing the mountains beneath their feet to violently tremble. About 10 minutes later they left the area. It wasn't that they didn't want to continue fighting, but if they did, not only these mountains but even the ground itself might be torn away. After all, this was the outskirts of Upper Capital, and causing too much disturbance wouldn't be good. Where the limits of this body lay, Lin Qie could only test in actual combat. By the way, none of your abilities remained? Shen Qingzhu asked as they walked. None. Lin Qie shook his head. I can't feel any of my previous powers. Plus, probably used some method to lock them all in my original body. If my soul hadn't left an anchor, I would likely have been completely scattered by now. I suspect he's had his eye on my body and abilities for a long time. Lin Qie's heart was full of regret. Including the mortal divine domain, he originally had 7 divine domains, plus those abilities obtained from draws, totaling 14 or 15, not to mention the dark origin and faith power. Without exaggeration, if Lin Qie still had that body now, he would definitely be one of the strongest ceiling-level beings in history. Perhaps this is a good thing, Shen Qingzhu consoled. You had too many abilities before, too diverse, and they were all given to you by gods. No matter how many gods you represent, you're ultimately just a proxy, not truly yourself. Without those abilities, perhaps you can go further. Further? Lin Qie smiled helplessly. With just this physical body and no forbidden domain as a pseudo-ceiling? Not having one now doesn't mean you won't in the future. All your previous abilities came from the gods you represented, right? Your true forbidden domain hasn't been discovered yet, has it? Hearing these words, Lin Qie paused. What's wrong? Shen Qingzhu asked. Lin Qie seemed to recall something and muttered, 1,000 sails vanish into clouds and mist, barefoot through wilderness, questioning one's true heart. Was that what the Marquis meant? When on the National Fate Island, Hu Xubing had said those words to him alone, and Lin Qie had never understood their meaning. At this moment, Shen Qingzhu's words enlightened him. Could it be that the Marquis already knew this calamity would befall him? But how did he know? Lin Qie silently resolved that once he had dealt with the current matters, he would definitely visit the National Fate Island again to ask the Marquis about this. By the way, the meeting with the special squad is tomorrow? Lin Qie seemed to remember something. That's right. Then we should hurry back to prepare. Although they're all familiar faces, as the new director of special operations, I should have something to show. Lin Qie pondered for a moment. I need to visit the Night Watcher headquarters first. Deep night. Night Watcher Headquarters. Lin Chia, draped in a deep red cloak, walked through the empty floors. Under the pale lights, rows of metal shelves were neatly arranged, occupying most of the floor space. At this hour, there weren't many people at the Night Watcher headquarters to begin with, and this floor housed the most top-secret archives of the Night Watchers. If Lin Chia hadn't been promoted to the upper echelon, he wouldn't have been able to move freely here. The birth and growth of the Night Watchers, everything they experienced over the past century, was contained in this archive room, even more extensive than the archives of Utopia. Lin Chia walked straight to the center of the archive room, where a bulky off-white desktop computer sat quietly on a desk. This computer looked like a product from the last century, the kind of old item that even antique recycling stations wouldn't want. Perhaps the most suitable place for it would be in a museum exhibition of electronic components. Yet this seemingly ancient, cumbersome first-generation machine carried all the archive sequences of the Night Watchers. And in the entire Night Watcher organization, only 5 people had the authority to use this computer. One was the current commander-in-chief, and the other 4 were department heads with crucial positions in the upper echelon. Lin Chia, who managed the Special Operations Department, was among them. In the empty, silent archive room, Lin Chia sat alone in front of the computer and carefully browsed through the internal network's index directory. Only now did Lin Chia truly understand how vast the Night Watchers' intelligence network was. Setting aside the internal data of the Night Watchers, at the top of the index directory were detailed files on all living human sealing experts and sealing candidates. Zhou Ping, Qin Fuzi, Guanzai, Lu Wei. Personal history, ability rating, potential rating, personality analysis, personal action analysis. Each person's file was over 100 pages long. The personal history section was so detailed that it even included which classmate they had a crush on in elementary school, using this to model and simulate their psychological development. Lin Chia couldn't understand those professional models and analyses, but he clearly knew that these files completely recorded their lives. Moreover, they had classified the combat power and potential of human sealing experts. Among all the human sealing files Lin Chia browsed, only Zhou Ping had an S+ rating. Wang Mian, Yuli Langbai, and Guanzai had S ratings, while the rest like Lu Wei, Wu Tongxian, Qin Fuzi, and Zhu Qing were all below S level. As for Lin Chia himself, since he had just broken through today, his human sealing rating hadn't appeared yet, but in the sealing candidate directory his rating was also a conspicuous S+. The Night Watchers had been observing all human sealing experts. What was their potential? Was there a possibility they might betray Xia? What role could they play in war? This was the true meaning behind these files. The Night Watchers were the blade protecting Xia, with its edge pointed not only at enemies beyond the mist but also vigilant against potential dangers from within. But what surprised Lin Chia even more was, there are even files on the gods of Xia? Lin Chia's eyes narrowed slightly when he saw a certain section. These files were much vaguer compared to the sealing expert files. Even the Night Watchers' intelligence network couldn't fully grasp the power and personality of each Xia god. Their history was too ancient to investigate. Lin Chia didn't know if these files were created when the Night Watchers were searching for traces of the heavenly court before the Xia gods appeared, or if, deep down, they were wary of the Xia gods. But thinking carefully, it wasn't surprising. The Night Watchers were an organization belonging to Xia, and Xia belonged to countless ordinary people. Before the heavenly court descended, who would know if the Xia gods might rule this country through faith and miracles like the gods of other divine nations? Myths were ultimately just myths. In that era, it was natural for the Night Watchers to be skeptical about the ideals of the yet-to-descend Xia gods. But now it seemed their doubts were unnecessary. Perhaps if the Xia gods had truly intended to enslave people and collect faith like the gods of high heaven who cultivated human enclosures, the Night Watchers would definitely have fought them to the death. Putting aside these complex thoughts, Lin Chia began searching for what he wanted. Among the numerous files, he selected all materials related to heroes, mediums, Phoenix, as well as confidential files about other special departments. Since he had taken on the role of department head, Lin Chia naturally wanted to do well. Although he had never liked dealing with paperwork, to manage the entire Special Operations Department effectively, he first needed to understand all the department's secrets. Time passed minute by minute. After an unknown period, Lin Chia rubbed his tired eyes and stood up from his seat. So much information, Lin Chia murmured. After this period of reading, he had a general understanding of the structure of the Special Operations Department and most of its confidential secrets. Just as he was about to leave after completing his task, he suddenly paused. After a moment of hesitation, he sat down in front of the computer again and typed a string of characters into the file index bar. God's Mental Hospital. Nothing. There was nothing. Lin Chia tried to search for materials related to the God's Mental Hospital using the Nightwatcher's archive, but found nothing. Lin Chia sighed. As he pondered what else was worth searching for, the image of the little boy who had appeared in his mind during his coma surfaced involuntarily. Every time he was on the brink of death, he would see that mysterious boy who looked very similar to himself. He had also heard from others about his remnant soul trapping us, and in his speculation this matter was most likely related to that boy. He extended his hands trying to input index characters, but looked troubled. How should he search? Little boy? That would yield too many results. How far back should he look? After contemplating for a moment, he typed in a string of characters. Little boy Lin Chia. As Lin Chia hit enter, 2 index file results appeared on the screen. The first result was a file from about a dozen years ago from Tsangnan City, about a little boy named Lin Chia, who claimed to have seen angels. At the end of this file, there was a link that could directly jump to all of Lin Chia's files after he joined the Nightwatchers. This wasn't what Lin Chia was looking for. His gaze passed over this file and continued downward. Then a look of confusion appeared in his eyes. The date on this file is from the Han Dynasty? Lin Chia exclaimed in surprise. Were the scrolls from the Demon Suppression Department back then transcribed into the archives? No, that's not right. Why would my name be on a Han Dynasty file? With a heart full of questions, Lin Chia clicked on the second file. No permission? Lin Chia looked at the 3 large characters on the screen and immediately frowned. Even I don't have permission? Given Lin Chia's current status in the Nightwatchers, it wouldn't be an exaggeration to say he was second only to one person. If even he didn't have permission to access this file, it meant the file must be in Zhuqing's hands. Why would an ancient scroll from the Han Dynasty have such a high security clearance? And why would his name appear in this file? Was it related to the mysterious little boy inside his body? The more Lin Chia thought about it, the stranger it seemed. He planned to find time to properly question Zhuqing. I almost forgot, there's one more thing. Lin Chia's fingers quickly typed on the keyboard. Red-haired girl Chloe. He had promised number 27 that he would help find that girl, but now he couldn't use the power of miracles, and throwing branches certainly wouldn't work. With no other choice, he had to start with the Nightwatchers' intelligence network. To Lin Chia's surprise, several files actually appeared in the search results. Strangely, these files spanned across a wide range of years. The earliest one was also from the Han Dynasty, while the most recent was from 6 years ago. What the hell? Could this girl called Chloe have lived from the Han Dynasty all the way to modern times? Is she a second Jialan? With a mind full of questions, Lin Chia opened these files one by one. He could access all of them except for the Han Dynasty file, for which he still had no permission. Most of these files were reports from Nightwatchers stationed at the border who had witnessed a red-haired girl and a figure shrouded in mist emerging from the fog. On one occasion they had requested to enter Great Xia territory, and the then Commander-in-Chief Yi Fan personally met with them, subsequently granting them 7 days of free movement within Great Xia's borders. However, what they discussed during that meeting was not recorded in the files. As Lin Chia flipped through these eyewitness accounts, his gaze swept across a line of text, and his pupils suddenly contracted. "This is," he murmured. On the flickering computer screen, a line of text was highlighted in bold. "Chloe, Forbidden Sequence 001. Unnamed suspected agent of Western Holy Church Patriarch Urand. We should be the first to arrive, right?" A commercial van stopped at the entrance of the Night Watchers' headquarters. Xia Siming was the first to jump out of the car, looking at the eastern dawn with a confident smile. "Captain, did we really need to rush like this?" The other members of the Phoenix team got out of the car with dark circles under their eyes, yawning several times. "Isn't the meeting supposed to start at 9? It's only just past 6 now." Arriving early shows our Phoenix team's sincerity. "As long as we make a good impression on Lin Chi, on Director Lin, it'll be easier to ask for leave in the future." Xia Siming gave Tong Xing a look, and he silently took out a large red plastic bag from the trunk, holding it in his arms and following closely behind Xia Siming, keeping his head as low as possible. The Phoenix team entered the headquarters and walked straight to the meeting room. As soon as they pushed open the door, the smile on Xia Siming's face instantly froze. The spacious meeting room was already full of people. Around the large oval conference table sat 8 figures wearing black cloaks, sitting statue-like and formal, their wide brims hiding their faces, their auras mysterious and cold. Compared to them, the 6 young men and women sitting opposite seemed somewhat restless. They didn't have their own cloaks, and their clothes were dusty as if they had just returned from begging in some corner. Seeing the Phoenix team enter, these young men and women immediately stood up and respectfully bowed to them. "How did you all get here so quickly?" Xia Siming stared at the 2 teams with wide eyes. "Spirit medium. I can understand they fly on sacred artifacts. But what about you? The reserve team shouldn't have their own plane, right?" Fong Mo coughed lightly and said, "Senior Xia, we took the high-speed train overnight, though we had to transfer several times." Xia Siming's mouth twitched slightly and she sighed helplessly, leading her team to sit at the other end of the conference table. From the spirit medium team, Wu Laogo slightly raised his brim, looked at the large red plastic bag in Tong Xing's arms, and asked with surprise, "What's that? Cigarettes?" "Captain Xia, the new director just took office. You're not planning to bribe him with this stuff, are you?" Xia Siming was momentarily speechless. She had planned to take advantage of being the first to arrive to secretly give this to Lin Chia, but she never expected to be the last one to arrive, and her expression immediately became awkward. "This is our captain's collection," Tong Xing answered reluctantly. Wu Laogo looked at her with a strange expression and nodded. "I wouldn't have guessed. Captain Xia indulges in cigarettes and alcohol in private. It's a habit. I get uncomfortable if I don't smoke a carton every day." Xia Siming laughed dryly. "Tong Xing, come light 1 carton. 1 cigarette for me." Tong Xing took out a cigarette and put it in the rigid Xia Siming's mouth, silently lighting it. Cough, cough, cough. Xia Siming began to cough violently. At that moment 2 figures walked into the office one after another. Lin Chia, holding a file, had just walked in when he saw Xia Siming coughing with a cigarette between her fingers. He frowned slightly and said seriously, "Captain Xia, smoking is prohibited in the meeting room." Hearing this, Shin Qingzhu behind him froze, silently putting the cigarette he had just placed in the corner of his mouth back into his pocket. Cough, cough, cough. Sorry. Xia Siming crushed the cigarette, hurriedly brushed back her messy hair and sat upright in her seat, pretending nothing had happened, though wisps of white smoke were still coming from her nose. The other members of the Phoenix team, seeing this scene, wished they could bury their heads in the ground. Lin Chia, holding the file, sat down at the head of the conference table, swept his gaze over everyone and smiled slightly. "Since everyone is here, let's start early. Everyone here knows each other, so I won't introduce myself much. From today on, I will temporarily serve as the director of the Night Watchers Special Operations Department. Clap, clap, clap. Enthusiastic applause erupted in the meeting room. Fong Emo and others smiled, clapping hard until their palms turned red. Before the meeting officially begins, I would like to announce something in my capacity as director of the Special Operations Department. Lin Chia's expression gradually became serious, and the entire meeting room immediately fell silent. From today onwards, regarding the original Special Team Number 004, Mask, and Special Team Number 005, Nightfall, the Snow Seal Plan will be activated. Snow Storage Plan? Hearing this unfamiliar name, Xia Siming and Old Dog Wu were both stunned. Revoke the Special Squad's designation, privileges, including all benefits such as transportation, salary subsidies, only retain the original Special Squad personnel composition and files. Freeze them until the Snow Storage Plan ends. Lin Chia explained the meaning of the Snow Storage Plan, and everyone present pondered thoughtfully. What does that mean? I don't understand, Suja scratched his head and asked quietly. It means that the Night Curtain and Mask squads will only keep their names and members. All other benefits will be reclaimed. You can understand it as canceling the team without disbanding it. Li Jinjin grew up in Squad 006 and was very familiar with these things. The existence of each special squad requires a large amount of resources from the Night Watchers. Instructor Lin is directly contributing the resources of these two squads to new special squads. I've never heard of this method before. It should be a new plan established by Instructor Lin using his authority as director. If he doesn't give up the designation and resources, even if we complete all the conditions, we can't become a true special squad. Fong Emo sighed deeply. He's doing all this for us. I see. It's actually a good method. Old Dog Wu nodded slightly. Lin Chia and Shin Qingzhu exchanged glances, a smile appearing at the corners of their mouths. This plan was indeed proposed by Lin Chia. Since he is now the director of the Special Operations Department, he does have the authority to establish and modify certain things. Left Qing letting him take over the Special Operations Department also contained this deeper meaning. This plan is the best choice for both Night Curtain and Mask. Next, I'll briefly allocate the authority changes and work assignments for each special squad in the coming period. Lin Chia followed procedure and distributed documents to the two special squads and one reserve squad present. All special squads should be uniformly deployed by the director of the Special Operations Department. Back then, Lin Chia and his team's missions were all issued by Left Qing. And now Lin Chia has become the person issuing missions to other squads. Wait. Xia Siming finished reviewing the materials and suddenly looked up. Director Lin. This isn't fair. Why does our squad have the heaviest workload? Lin Chia raised an eyebrow and spoke helplessly. This can't be helped. The medium squad has already reached its ceiling and needs to simultaneously handle confronting outer gods and guarding war checkpoints. The reserve squad's strength is still insufficient. Only your Phoenix squad has enough manpower and time to conduct mystery cleanups within Great Xia's borders. Xia Siming's face had collapsed like a bitter gourd. She had gone to such great lengths to come here just to please Lin Chia, hoping he might arrange some easier work for them. But now they've directly become model workers. Director Lin, we can actually take on more tasks, even more dangerous ones, Fong Emo said seriously from the other side. These tasks are already dangerous enough for you. You need to take things one step at a time. Lin Chia shook his head. This matter is settled for now. Shin Deputy and I will share some of Phoenix's burden, so you don't need to worry too much. Xia Siming sighed deeply with a bitter face. Today's meeting ends here. If there are no other issues, let's adjourn. Lin Chia paused for a moment. Phoenix squad, please stay behind. Hearing the latter half of his statement, Xia Siming's heart suddenly skipped a beat, suddenly feeling like a student being asked to stay after class by a teacher. He felt a bit anxious. As Medium and the 6th Reserve Squad left, Only Lin Chia, Shen Qingzhu and the golden-cloaked Phoenix squad remained in the conference room. Director Lin, I know smoking in the conference room is wrong. In the future I will definitely. Before Lin Chia could speak, Xia Siming lowered her head and began to admit her mistake, with a sincere attitude, fluent speech and steady rhythm, clearly showing rich experience in admitting mistakes. Lin Chia was stunned for a moment, then spoke with a mixture of amusement and exasperation. Captain Xia, you're overthinking. I asked you to stay because I have something specific to ask you. He took out a file and handed it to the Phoenix squad members. Xia Siming finally relaxed and curiously began to look through it. 6 years ago, a girl named Chloe and a man shrouded in smoke met with Commander Yi Fan and then entered Great Xia's borders. According to this file, the Phoenix squad was responsible for escorting them in and out. Them? Yes, that's right, though I wasn't the captain then. Sister Feng was. Xia Siming nodded. What do you know about them? Xia Siming thought hard for a moment, then said, that man was very strong, at least at the main god level. He was like a specter. If he concealed his aura, none of us could sense him. His gaze was piercing like a hunter's, making one shudder. That girl. It was very beautiful, with fiery red hair, very fair skin, a hot figure, at least a C cup, possibly even D. Wait, I didn't ask about that, Lin Chia quickly interrupted. What about other aspects? For other aspects I'm not sure. I couldn't sense her level and she didn't talk much with us, just occasionally smiled. What did they do within Great Xia's borders? They just wandered around Great Xia as if looking for something, and left when the 7-day time limit was up. Looking for something? Lin Chia fell into deep thought. Now it could be confirmed that those who visited Great Xia years ago were indeed number 27 and the red-haired girl Chloe he had been searching for. But what happened after they returned to the mist and then Chloe disappeared? Originally, Lin Chia thought Chloe might be number 27's old flame from this era. But based on the clues collected these past 2 days, this matter might not be so simple. The legendary sequence 001, Yuran's proxy, even acting together with ancient primal gods, and even recorded in Han Dynasty scrolls. This girl was shrouded in unknown mist, and Lin Chia had a feeling that this girl might also be related to the little boy inside him. Their simultaneous appearance in Han Dynasty scrolls couldn't simply be a coincidence, could it? All right, I understand, Lin Chia nodded. You may go now. Xia Siming grinned and was about to turn and leave when she seemed to remember something. She pulled out a pack of soft Zhonghua cigarettes wrapped in a bright red plastic bag from behind her and furtively handed it to Lin Chia. Director Lin, this is a small token of our appreciation. Please accept it. 5 minutes later. Summer Siming opened the door of the conference room dejectedly, let out a long sigh, looking somewhat haggard. Captain, don't be too upset. Maybe Director Lin just doesn't like soft Zhonghua cigarettes? A member of the Phoenix team consoled. Yes, Captain, I feel Director Lin is quite nice. Even if we couldn't give him the gift, he'll still look after us. At worst, we just can't approve our own leave requests. You really don't need to worry too much. Speaking of which, Director Lin's temper is indeed good. He only reminded the captain a few times. If it were commanders with, hey, we probably wouldn't be able to leave without being scolded for half an hour. Everyone chatted back and forth as they unconsciously reached the entrance of the night watchman's headquarters. Summer Siming walked to the business car, looked back at the headquarters with an apologetic expression and said, I'm sorry. I couldn't get us any leave and instead accepted a pile of missions and got all of you reprimanded along with me for several minutes. I'm so useless. I'm sorry. Summer Siming, wearing a golden cape, suddenly bowed deeply, startling the members of the Phoenix team. Captain, what are you doing? Tong Xing hurriedly helped Summer Siming up. We don't blame you. Besides, the tasks assigned by Director Lin are our duty anyway. It's not a big deal to rest a few days less. Yes. Everyone quickly agreed. Summer Siming, with reddened eyes, shook her head helplessly, turned back to the car, and as everyone took their seats, the vehicle slowly drove away from the headquarters entrance. Upstairs, Shin Qingzhu removed his fingers from the Venetian blinds, withdrawing his gaze from the first floor and sighed. "How is it?" Lin Chia, sitting in the main seat of the conference room, asked. "The mood is a bit low, but it's not a big problem." "Bro, was I too harsh just now?" "No, you said exactly what was needed. If you were too lenient, people might think the night watchman is a place where favors can be bought through bribes. Though this Captain Xia is quite naive, she doesn't seem to have bad intentions. I wonder where she learned this trick from, perhaps from driving school. I haven't had much contact with them before, but now it seems this Phoenix team is quite interesting." Lin Chia chuckled lightly. Besides, she got the target of her bribe wrong. "Don't look at me, I wouldn't accept it either." Shin Qingzhu silently took out a cigarette from his pocket, placed it between his lips, lit it with a snap of his fingers and said flatly, "I smoke Huangalu." Lin Chia and Shin Qingzhu looked at each other and smiled simultaneously. "So, Director Lin, what do we do next?" "I need to find Mr. Lu." "Lu Wei? What for?" "To ask him to find someone." Shin Qingzhu nodded and was about to leave with Lin Chia when he suddenly stopped. He looked toward the other end of the corridor where a figure quickly hid behind the corner, pretending nothing had happened. "Wu Quan," Shin Qingzhu called out helplessly. Hearing Shin Qingzhu call him, Wu Quan finally walked out from the corner with his head down, saying nothing. "Didn't we already put you on a plane back to the Abstinence Institute? Did you jump off the plane again?" "Yes, they couldn't stop me." Shin Qingzhu was speechless. Faced with his stubborn brother, he really didn't know what to do. "Brother Qingzhu, do you also think my crime is unforgivable?" Wu Quan looked into Shin Qingzhu's eyes. This young man who had never shown fear when facing mysteries, and Lin Chia was full of anxiety and worry when facing this man. "Whether you're guilty or not, let's set that aside for now. Following us is too dangerous for you." Shin Qingzhu was telling the truth. Although Wu Quan was at the Klein level, he was still too weak for the challenges he and Lin Chia would face. Moreover, he was only a 15-year-old boy. How could Shin Qingzhu feel at ease bringing him along everywhere? "I'm not afraid of danger," Wu Quan said seriously with a hint of pleading in his voice. "Brother, since leaving the orphanage, you're my only family in this world. I don't want to stay alone in a safe place. As long as I can be by your side, I'm not afraid to die in battle." "You..." Shin Qingzhu opened his mouth, wanting to say something, but seeing Wu Quan's expression, he couldn't bring himself to say anything harsh. After standing in silence for a long time, he turned to look at Lin Chia, seeking his opinion. "Actually, keeping him locked up in the Abstinence Institute may not be the best thing," Lin Chia pondered for a moment. "The Domination Emperor has an extremely short lifespan, rarely living past 20. Since he's so eager to follow you, why not give him a chance to atone for his crimes through service? It would be good for him and for Great Xia. Will the Abstinence Institute agree?" Lin Chia smiled. "Have you forgotten my position? I do have the authority to get him released on parole from the Abstinence Institute." Seeing this, Wu Quan's face finally lit up with joy. He bowed deeply to Lin Chia. "Thank you, Brother Chia." Beep beep beep. The sound of an electric scooter's horn broke through the quiet night, a beam of headlight cutting through the darkness, illuminating a corner of the street. At the edge of the street, two figures wearing deep red cloaks had been waiting for a long time, with a thin young man standing behind them. The electric scooter slowly decelerated and finally stopped in front of the three. Lu Wei took off his helmet and smiled at the young man in front. "Congratulations, I heard you've been promoted to senior management?" Lin Chia smiled bitterly. "Mr. Lu, please don't tease me. If possible, I'd rather be a special team captain for life. By the way, what did you need me for? I hope you can help find someone." "Who?" "Chloe." "Chloe." Lu Wei murmured the name, seemingly unfamiliar with it. "A foreigner?" "Should be. Looks like an overseas order." Lu Wei sighed. Alright, I don't have much work lately anyway. Do you want to come with me? We'd better not. If you have any news, just come back and let me know. Lin Chia currently didn't have the cloud somersault, and if he wanted to go with Lu Wei, he would have to ride on the back of his electric scooter. But given Lu Wei's speed, it would take at least half a month for one person to search through the mist, and with Lin Chia added, they probably wouldn't return for over a month. Lin Chia had just taken over the director's position with many responsibilities and simply didn't have that much time. The best approach was to let Lu Wei go alone, which would be faster. Alright, I'll set off now. Lu Wei wrote Chloe on the order form, then waved goodbye to Lin Chia and the others before riding off into the night. Mist. Two figures slowly emerged from the gray, hazy world as waves swept through the narrow valley, producing a thunderous roar. Is this the location you chose? Under the black hood, and Qingyu's face lifted slightly without his scholarly black glasses, his demeanor somewhat austere. No choice, the hell that Nicholas set up was destroyed by someone, so we had to create a new space. Case shrugged, an expression of helplessness appearing on his dark face. He raised his palm toward the center of the canyon and gently clenched it. An invisible wave of air compressed and dispersed. The churning waves in the canyon suddenly stilled. The next moment, the entire stormy sea area became calm, like a deep green mirror reflecting the ruggedness of the canyon walls on both sides. As Fus descended onto the sea surface, a ripple gently spread, transforming into a vortex that shattered the mirror-like surface, extending deep into the unfathomable seabed. He carried the remnants of Black Goat, and lightly leaped, disappearing into the vortex. And Qingyu narrowed his gray eyes and similarly entered the vortex. The deep-sea vortex swept around Qingyu, and moments later, their figures strangely emerged from another inverted sea surface. Mist, sea, canyon. Everything was like the sea in reality. The only difference was that this world had no sun or moon. A chaotic sky pressed down upon the sea and canyon, giving a sense of oppressive heaviness. You created a mirror world? The gray in the depths of Qingyu's eyes flashed as he instantly analyzed this realm. Of course, Fez chuckled. Black Goat is barely alive. Before the key to the gate revives, you can't do much except make sacrifices to the gate of truth. I haven't recovered to my peak strength either. If they surrounded us together, it would be troublesome. Although this place isn't like a true divine realm, it's extremely difficult to discover and allows us to recover slowly. And Qingyu nodded, his gaze sweeping over the two towering Black Sea straits before him, and walked alone toward one of them. Let's not interfere with each other. This half is mine. Seeing this, Chaos raised an eyebrow. Wait. And Qingyu stopped and frowned, looking back. You can have that half, no problem, but you'd better give me a definite answer. The key to the gate, when will it revive? The gate of truth isn't repaired enough yet. It will take some time. Some time how long? About 4 or 5 years, I suppose. Are you joking with me? Chaos narrowed his eyes, a grim expression appearing on his dark face. And Qingyu stared at him for a long time before slowly speaking. Do I look like I'm joking? As the words fell, the atmosphere in the strait instantly froze. What about those Miko? Can't they sacrifice lives to accelerate the key to the gate's revival? After an unknown period, Fizz spoke. Do you think the number of Miko is endless? And Qingyu countered. They are my faithful followers. To speed up the key to the gate's awakening, they've sacrificed themselves almost to extinction. The remaining ones, even combined, can't advance it much. If you think I'm deceiving you, you might as well kill me directly and see if the key to the gate still has a chance to revive. And Qingyu's words grew increasingly sharp. A cold wind swept through the canyon, making his black robe flutter loudly. Kus frowned deeply, eyeing Qingyu as if trying to directly perceive his thoughts, but under the gaze of those gray eyes, it had no effect whatsoever. After a long while he slowly spoke. For years. Within 4 years I must see the key to the gate revive. And Qingyu didn't answer. With his hands tucked inside his black robe, he turned and disappeared into one side of the strait. Rolling gray mist enveloped half the strait like a tornado, forming an impenetrable wall. Kiss withdrew his gaze and similarly returned to his own strait. Sitting cross-legged on a huge rock, he opened his palm and a miniature model of a hospital appeared in his hand. Next, it's time to completely control you. God's psychiatric hospital. Dungeon. The once empty cells were now filled with green figures. Azu was curled up on the damp floor, his face pale as if asleep. In the cell opposite him, a blood-covered figure leaned against the wall, his state between life and death uncertain. Manager, manager. A voice came from the adjacent cell. The blood-covered figure suddenly opened his eyes and turned to make a hushing gesture toward the neighboring cell. Keep it down. That guy can hear. The voice from next door immediately disappeared. A moment later, a hand reached through the bars, dipped in water and began writing on the ground. Manager, Azu is starving to death. Seeing these words, Li Yifei's blood-stained face trembled slightly. After sighing, he reached out to write. Our souls have been signed over to 7 Night. With the hospital's protection, even if we die, we can be resurrected. At most, we'll suffer some pain. Just as the panel stated, as mythical creatures killed by your own hands, you have the right to decide the fate of their souls. 7 Night killed them and employed them as caretakers. Even though Kiss now controlled part of the hospital, he couldn't determine their life or death, so he could only imprison them in the dungeon. Manager, when will this hell end? Seeing these words, Li Yifei shook his head and continued writing. I don't know. If he completely controls the hospital, will we be utterly destroyed, soul and all? I don't know. Will the director come to save us? Li Yifei didn't answer. In his mind flashed the scene of 7 Night's soul being knocked out of his body by. Given the circumstances, it was hard to say whether 7 Night was even still alive. Who could have imagined that the seemingly most kind and gentle Yellen was actually Fuss in disguise? Was there nothing they could do except wait for death here? Li Yifei's fist clenched tightly, his heart filled with unwillingness and anger. He raised his blood-crusted hand and struck the bars heavily, but they didn't budge. After an unknown period in the darkness, Li Yifei sighed bitterly. Hunger and pain gradually occupied his mind, his consciousness becoming increasingly blurred. He knew he wasn't far from death this time. In his days he seemed to have a dream. He saw a young man dressed in Han Dynasty Confucian attire slowly walking toward him. The young man crouched before him, gently patted his shoulder and smiled. The time to respond to the Holy Covenant has come. Li Yifei, don't forget the mission entrusted to you by that Great One. As Li Yifei's eyes were about to close, he saw a shadow slip from the young man's palm into his hand. It was a white chess piece. In the darkness, Li Yifei's eyes suddenly opened. He lay on the floor of the dungeon, his chest heaving violently. He struggled to sit up, and after confirming that he was alive again, he let out a long sigh. Being alive meant that the chaos god outside hadn't completely taken control of this hospital yet. Was it a dream? Or? Li Yifei recalled the young man he met when he was near death, confusion appearing in his eyes. Just then his hand supporting him on the ground seemed to touch something hard. Lifting his palm, he saw a white chess piece lying quietly on the ground. Li Yifei's eyes narrowed slightly. He picked up the chess piece and examined it carefully in his palm. This piece didn't look any different from ordinary ghost stones. If anything, perhaps it felt more smooth to the touch without any coldness despite being in this damp dungeon. The chess piece was real, which meant that wasn't a dream? But why would he randomly dream about someone from ancient times? What was the sacred covenant? He didn't remember making any promises to anyone, so where did this mission come from? As Li Yifei pondered these questions, the chess piece in his palm suddenly cracked open, and a drop of fresh blood flowed out from within, merging with the blood on his hand before dripping onto the prison floor. A whispered voice passed by Li Yifei's ear. Who? Li Yifei turned his head sharply. There was no sound coming from the cells on either side, but that voice still echoed in his ears. Li Yifei seemed to realize something and looked down at the floor beneath his feet. It's you, he murmured. Li Yifei had long known that this hospital had its own consciousness. Both Nix and Merlin had communicated with the hospital's consciousness before their discharge. But perhaps because his soul was too weak, or perhaps because he lacked something, he had never communicated with it despite managing the hospital for so long. Now he could actually hear the hospital's voice? Whispers entered Li Yifei's ears one after another. He tried hard to understand the meaning behind those sounds. After some time, shock gradually appeared in his eyes. His lips moved but no sound came out. You're saying that Chia is actually... The shock in Li Yifei's eyes gradually faded. He continued to say something silently as if conversing with the hospital, then nodded firmly. He placed his palm on the dungeon floor and patterns like blood vessels extended from beneath the dungeon, entering Li Yifei's body. He let out a muffled groan and a strange light flowed in his eyes. At this moment, countless thoughts surged in his mind, and his previous conversations with Merlin echoed in his head again. You foresaw this, Lord Merlin, Li Yifei murmured. He slowly lowered his head, looking at the broken white chess piece in his palm. Sacred Covenant. 10 days later. Daxia, Changxi City. Boom. An earth-shattering explosion sounded from the middle of a skyscraper. A huge shadow over 100 meters long crashed from the sky, landing heavily on the deserted street. Thick smoke immediately engulfed the ground. A figure wearing a deep red cloak instantly sprang from the building, turning into a red light streaking through the void, and smashed a fist into the giant shadow's surface. A muffled explosion sounded again. The ground around suddenly collapsed and invisible shockwaves swept for kilometers, blowing several figures in dark red cloaks off their feet in the distance. Damn, is this really the power a human can unleash? Why does this Klein mystery seem so weak? Captain, you didn't report the wrong level, did you? Bullshit. I can't tell the difference between infinite and Klein. That thing is definitely a Klein. Otherwise we wouldn't have had to request backup from headquarters. That must be a high-ranking night watcher, right? I thought they would send a special team. I heard it's because the Phoenix team schedule was too full, so Director Lin personally came to help. By the way, do you know about the Nightfall team? This person used to be the captain of Nightfall. No wonder he's ridiculously strong. Shin Qingzhu stood beside these night watchers, unhurriedly lighting a cigarette in the fierce wind, watching the figure that was bare-handedly pummeling the Klein in the distance without saying a word. After 2 more booms from the distance, he gently exhaled a puff of white smoke and turned to walk downstairs. It's over. Let the logistics department handle the cleanup. It's over. The night watchers stationed in Changxi City all showed expressions of astonishment. They looked back at the battlefield, which had indeed fallen into silence. In just a few seconds he had beaten a Klein to death with his bare hands. Everyone rushed toward the battlefield. Lin Chia had already walked out from the smoke, clean and tidy from head to toe, without any trace of having been in a major battle. Director Lin, is it resolved? Asked Zhao Boping, the captain of the Changxi station. Yes. Lin Chia nodded slightly. Let the logistics department handle the cleanup. This mystery descended in the urban area, so remember to repair the buildings properly. Yes. Zhao Boping paused. Director Lin, would you like to rest at our station? It's getting late. No need. I still have to get back to handle official business. Carry on with your work. Lin Chia waved his hand and walked straight toward the military airport. Shin Qingzhu extinguished his cigarette and followed closely behind. Is the other one taken care of? Lin Chia asked. I sent Wu Quan to handle it. It's also finished. He's meeting us at the plane now. Sigh. Once they were far enough away, Lin Chia stretched his arms, showing a tired expression. This job isn't easy. It's like doing the work of a special team plus a bunch of desk work. Isn't it satisfying to beat a client with your bare hands? It is quite satisfying. I've basically mastered the power of this body now, but not being able to use forbidden domains still feels a bit strange. Lin Chia sighed. Shin Qingzhu nodded slightly. Get some rest on the plane. I can help you with some of the paperwork. Lin Chia smiled and was about to say something when he suddenly looked up. What's wrong? Shin Qingzhu asked. Bro, did you just see something float over my head? No. Strange, was I seeing things? Lin Chia stared carefully at the void above for a moment. Seeing nothing else there, he continued walking forward with Shin Qingzhu. By the way, Mr. Lu just called. Oh. Lin Chia paused. Did he find Chloe? Yes, but her situation is somewhat complicated. Lin Chia and Shin Qingzhu returned to the cabin, where Wu Quan had been waiting for some time. Brother Qingzhu, I killed that mysterious one, and took control of its body. Wu Quan's eyes lit up when he saw the two return, his tone carrying a hint of showing off. Well done. Shin Qingzhu patted his head with a slight smile. Lin Chia sat down and continued asking. You just said the situation is complicated? He found Chloe's location, but some other forces have blocked off that area, making it impossible to see her in person. Other forces? Lin Chia pondered for a moment. Olympus? At this time overseas, there should only be Olympus as a divine nation, and Lin Chia could only think of the Greek gods being able to block access to Chloe. No, not a divine nation. Shin Qingzhu shook his head. It seems to be an organization called the Holy Judgment Knights. Holy Judgment Knights? Hearing this name, Lin Chia felt it sounded familiar. After thinking carefully for a while, he finally remembered where he had heard of this organization. Back when he first captured Bel Clan, he heard it describe the scene in the mist, and the reason it fled all the way to Desya was because of the Holy Judgment Knights' pursuit. At that time, Lin Chia was quite shocked to learn that humans existed in the mist. Did they capture Chloe? Is she still alive? She should still be alive. If the search target had died, Mr. Lu would know. Hearing this, Lin Chia breathed a sigh of relief. He turned his head toward the corner of the cabin, speaking to what appeared to be empty space. This Knight's Order, do you know anything about them? Who are you talking to? Wu Quan was startled seeing Lin Chia talking to the air, thinking his mental illness was acting up again. Before Lin Chia could answer, a cloud of smoke suddenly appeared in the corner of the cabin, and a figure wearing a wide hood materialized, standing ghost-like just 3 meters away from everyone. The moment they saw this figure, Wu Quan and Shin Qingzhu's pupils contracted simultaneously. This figure had been hiding so close to them, yet they hadn't noticed until now. Wu Quan's reaction was understandable, but Shin Qingzhu had been confident in his own abilities. The figure's appearance made his hair stand on end. Don't worry, this is the ancestral god. Lin Chia quickly explained as he saw divine power erupting from Shin Qingzhu's body. Ancestral god? What's that? I'll explain later. Number 27 crossed his arms, looking at Lin Chia with surprise. How did you discover me? You shouldn't have your forbidden domain anymore. Intuition. Lin Chia smiled. After the battle with Puss, in the Celestial Court, I didn't see you. You wanted to find someone but couldn't stay with the god of Desya all the time, so I guessed you might have been following me. You guessed correctly. Number 27 slowly spoke. The Holy Judgment Knights. I've never heard of them either. Do you know why they would kidnap Chloe? What's special about her? Number 27's brows furrowed under his hood. After thinking for a moment, he said gravely, I don't believe anyone in this world could kidnap her. Why? She's powerful. Number 27 spoke solemnly. As long as she uses her power properly, she is the embodiment of omnipotence. Neither humans nor gods could forcibly kidnap or imprison her. You mean, she's staying with the knights voluntarily? Number 27 lowered his head, lost in thought. After a long while he looked up and asked Shen Qingzhu, "Where is this knight's order?" Mr. Liu marked it on a map and sent an electronic copy. "It's on Chia's phone." Lin Chia opened his phone and looked. Just as Bell Clan had described earlier, the knight's order was located near London. "Give me the map, I'll go find her. This way our contract will be fulfilled." Number 27 extended his hand to Lin Chia. "No, we're going too." "You're going too? Aren't you very busy?" "There are some things I want to ask her." In Lin Chia's mind, the face of that little boy appeared again, along with those 2 Han Dynasty files he didn't have access to. Over the past 10 days he had called Suiqing to ask about those files, but Suiqing had always been vague, seemingly unwilling to reveal much. Since that was the case, Lin Chia had to find clues himself. He had a feeling that this girl named Chloe must be connected to the mysterious little boy inside him. Besides, we don't need to ride electric scooters. By boat we can get there in about 2 or 3 days and the round trip won't take too long. Lin Chia took out his phone. "Wait a moment, I'll make a few calls to arrange a ship." Lin Chia turned and left the cabin, returning quickly a few minutes later. "To Chinlong Pass," he told the pilot. The plane carrying the 4 of them quickly took off, disappearing into the eastern horizon. The Commander-in-Chief's office. Suiqing hung up the phone and looked at the gray sky outside, sighing helplessly. So he went after all. Well, it was bound to happen sooner or later. After sitting alone in his office chair for a moment, Suiqing stood up and walked out, passing through the busy corridors, taking the elevator directly to the floor where the archives were located. This floor had almost no people. He walked through the dusty metal shelves and finally stopped in front of a dim wall. He gently wiped the corner of the wall and patterns lit up across its surface. With a soft click, a silver box with a high-tech appearance automatically popped out. A light scanned his eyes and a cold electronic voice announced, "Highest authority verification passed." As the wall opened, Suiqing stepped inside to find a clean, narrow secret room. In the center of this room stood a solitary metal shelf filled with numerous files. This was the archive room that only those with the highest Nightwatcher authority could access. And in the corner of this metal shelf lay a parchment scroll from the Han Dynasty. Suiqing took down this parchment scroll, then retrieved another file from the top layer of the metal shelf. He walked to the desk in the corner of the secret room, turned on the lamp and opened both files simultaneously, turning to a specific page. In these 2 different files the same term appeared. Suiqing's gaze lingered on a term marked in red, his brows slightly furrowed. Holy Covenant. Suiqing's fingertips rubbed against the file as he murmured, "Holy Covenant. What exactly is it?" Fog. A exploration ship sailed across the calm waters, heading straight into the depths of the fog. Lin Chia stood at the bow of the exploration ship, the fog rolling over his figure. The once bright sunlight gradually dimmed, leaving only the ship's lights piercing through the fog, extending to the distant sea surface. Lin Chia was very familiar with this exploration ship. The last time they went to sea to search for the Ark, they were on this very ship. Later, after they returned from Hell, De Xia sent people to salvage it. Memories surged in Lin Chia's heart. He sighed deeply and was about to turn around when a faint light flashed past above his head. He looked up, but there was nothing above except for the hazy gray fog. Could it be that I really have after effects? Lin Chia muttered to himself in confusion. Counting from the day before yesterday, this was the 3rd time he had experienced hallucinations, which made him wonder if his soul and body hadn't fully adapted, causing his senses to become disordered. As Lin Chia was pondering, number 27 slowly approached from behind. "How much longer?" Number 27 asked. "We've been sailing for a day and a half, we should be arriving soon." Number 27 nodded. You mentioned earlier that you wanted to ask Chloe something personally. What exactly is it? Lin Chia hesitated for a moment but still spoke up. I want to know why she appears in the Han Dynasty archives, and whether she has any connection to me or if we've met before. I can answer the first question right now, number 27 said slowly. It's not surprising that she appears in your Han Dynasty archives because back then she was a missionary for the Western Holy Church, traveling the seas on behalf of the Holy Lord, spreading their teachings. Not just in the Han Dynasty, but her footprints can be found all over the world. During the Han Dynasty she was already Iran's proxy? Lin Chia asked in surprise. That's right. But how could she live for so long? She made a covenant with time. Years leave no trace on her, so naturally she doesn't age. A covenant with time. Lin Chia's mouth fell open in shock. What kind of ability is that? Amazing, isn't it? Number 27 smiled. When I first met her, I was also stunned. The things she can do go far beyond this. Although she never explained her abilities to me after traveling together for so long, I can roughly guess. She can form covenants with anything in the world, and once established, these covenants must be fulfilled. She once made a covenant with the wind, and the wind stayed around her, becoming her eternal protection. She made a covenant with fire, and fire became a weapon that kills for her. She made a covenant of reunion with those near death, and no matter how long the body has decayed, on the day the covenant takes effect, the deceased will be reborn. She can even bring the dead back to life? Yes, that's why I say if she uses her ability properly, she is the embodiment of omnipotence. Number 27 paused. Of course, all of this comes at a price. What's the price? I don't know. Lin Chia couldn't help but marvel. What a monstrous ability. So this is 001. This ability is powerful, but it's not what truly makes her formidable. Number 27 said seriously. She has a very special constitution. She can gradually change the faith of those around her as time passes. Change their faith? Faith in what? Faith in her. Hearing this answer, Lin Chia froze. Wherever she stays for a long time, whether plants, animals, or humans, they will be attracted to her, becoming her devout followers, worshipping her as their faith and deity. Lin Chia's mouth hung open, and it took him a long while to recover. No wonder she could be a missionary for the Western Holy Church. With this ability, gathering followers for the Holy Church would be too easy. This ability, combined with the ageless covenant, made with time, made this red-haired girl essentially a faith-harvesting machine. Given enough time, she could potentially turn every living being in the world into her follower. Neither the power to change faith nor the mysterious power of covenants was comparable to any forbidden domain or divine domain that Lin Chia knew of. Perhaps this was why she became 001. So what exactly is your relationship with her? After much hesitation, Lin Chia carefully asked. Not the kind of relationship you're thinking of. Number 27 shook his head. About 7 or 8 years ago, when I was walking through the fog as the god of assassins, I accidentally encountered her. Her power astonished me, and I believed then that her power might be the key to saving this world. Saving the world? Lin Chia asked puzzledly. In what way? Number 27 extended his hand, pointing to the Dead Sea below, then to the gray sky above. Lin Chia was stunned for a while, guessing number 27's meaning, and asked in shock, Is that really possible? I asked her that too, but she just smiled without answering. Number 27 sighed. Later she invited me to travel with her, saying that someday she would show me what I wanted to see. So I agreed. Why does that sound so mysterious? She is mysterious in every aspect, number 27 continued. Because of this promise, I traveled with her for about 3 years, until she suddenly disappeared 5 years ago. Since then, I've been searching for her all over the world. Lin Chia nodded. He already understood most of what happened after that. I've told you everything you wanted to know. Number 27 turned to look at him. I also have a question. What is it? That hospital. Number 27's gaze grew serious. What exactly is that hospital that, chaos, took from inside you? Lin Chia was slightly taken aback. After much hesitation, he gave a simple explanation about the hospital's existence, but omitted many details, including the process of treating other patients and extracting abilities. After listening, number 27 frowned slightly. You mean, chaos disguised himself as a patient in the 6th room and was hiding in your mind all along? That's right. You just said that in the later rooms the patients had weaker divinity, correct? Yes. Number 27 paced for a while as if thinking of something and gave Lin Chia a peculiar look. What is it? Lin Chia asked curiously. Haven't you considered one question? Number 27 slowly said. If this was disguised and hiding in the 6th room, then where is the original patient of that room? Lin Chia stood frozen. The original patient? You said the door plate of that room originally had a on it, right? Number 27 spread his hands. Doesn't this mean that this room actually had a patient originally? These words fell on Lin Chia's ears like a thunderbolt. The 6th hospital room originally had a patient? Lin Chia had never considered this possibility. The existence of chaos had directly misled his thinking, making him believe that the 7th hospital room had always contained chaos. But in fact, after the door plate forged by X fell off, it did reveal a symbol. Lin Chia had thought that the meant there was no patient, but thinking carefully, if there was no 6th patient, the door plate should have been empty. So where did the original 6th patient of this hospital go? Was he killed by us, who then took his place? Lin Chia's mind went blank. By the time he hazily came back to his senses, number 27 had already returned to the cabin. Lin Chia rubbed his throbbing temples, sighed deeply and stepped toward the cabin. Regardless of the truth, the hospital was now in chaos hands. Even if he wanted to find out what happened to the 6th patient, he no longer had the ability to do so. Lin Chia walked into the bathroom of the cabin, turned on the faucet and washed his face with cold water, trying to wash away those jumbled thoughts. Just then something flashed past above his head again. Lin Chia's eyes narrowed. This time he jerked his head up, but instead of looking directly above him, he looked at the mirror in front of him. It wasn't an illusion. There was indeed something flashing above his head, and this time Lin Chia clearly saw what it was. His pupils trembled violently. Lin Chia treatment progress. 44%. That familiar progress bar panel flashed above Lin Chia's head, like a malfunctioning screen, disappearing instantly without a trace. But Lin Chia clearly knew what he had seen. The hospital's treatment progress bar? Why would a progress bar appear above his head? Lin Chia couldn't understand. That flashing progress bar was like a hammer striking his mind, turning his thoughts into a jumbled mess. He had a treatment progress bar. So what exactly was he? Patient? How could that be possible? If he were a patient, why wasn't he in the hospital? He clearly remembered being adopted by his aunt's family since he was 7 or 8 years old. Yang Jian could verify this. Although his memories before that were somewhat blurry, he definitely had never been in a hospital ward. Moreover, if he were a patient in the 6th ward, how did he get out? How could he move freely outside? No, case seemed able to freely enter and exit the hospital even when the treatment progress was only 1%. But regardless, Lin Chia firmly believed he wasn't a mental patient. He had no memories of anything like that, and the hospital was no longer in his hands, so why would a treatment progress bar suddenly appear? Perhaps something had happened at the hospital's main entity? Lin Chia stood like a statue in the bathroom for a long time, then as if realizing something, looked down at his palm. Could it be you? Lin Chia murmured. In Lin Chia's mind appeared the face of a little boy who looked almost identical to himself, whom he encountered each time he was near death. His existence was like a mystery. Lin Chia had thought it was just a hallucination during his near-death experiences, but after the chaos incident, he knew the boy actually existed. If that progress bar was real too, then it might not be pointing to himself, but to the mysterious boy inside him. Was he the true sixth patient of the hospital? Complex thoughts surged through Lin Chia's mind. He almost wanted to jump into the sea and kill himself to meet the boy again and get answers, but ultimately he resisted the impulse. Setting aside whether his current physical body would even drown if he jumped into the sea, what if he died and couldn't meet the boy? Wouldn't that be a huge loss? After struggling with his thoughts for a long time, Lin Chia sighed and walked out of the bathroom. Just then a figure nearly collided with him. Wu Quan. Brother Chia, I was looking for you. Wu Quan pointed toward the deck. We're almost there. Lin Chia nodded, wiped the remaining water from his face and walked straight to the bridge. As Wu Quan had said, through the hazy mist, the outline of land was faintly visible. Countless shipwrecks floated along the coastline, and a wide waterway extended straight into the depths of the land. We'll reach London in about an hour at most, said Shen Qingzhu, steering with one hand. Can the ship go straight in? Yes. The exploration ship gradually advanced along the waterway. The dead of night was shrouded in gray mist. With the ship's lights, they could barely make out the ruins of the city on both banks, like a tomb standing in the fog for countless ages. Vaguely, a giant shadow spanning across the river appeared in everyone's vision. Tower Bridge. Lin Chia's gaze moved from the map, slowly surveying the silent ruins around them. It seems we have arrived. Weren't there supposed to be humans living here? Why don't we see any traces? Wu Quan asked puzzlingly. Perhaps they don't live on the surface at all. Although these mists have weakened considerably compared to 100 years ago, they're still deadly to ordinary people, Lin Chia explained. Then how do we find them? London is quite large. Lin Chia looked at the map in his hand and sighed helplessly. It was a pity he couldn't summon Wang Kai now, otherwise he could call out Bel Crandall to guide them, which would save a lot of trouble. Let's dock the ship and go ashore first. The exploration ship gradually approached the shore under Shen Qingzhu's control. The four of them stepped onto this land of ruins and walked forward along the uneven road. After some time, Lin Chia stopped in a relatively spacious clearing. Are we not searching anymore? Wu Quan asked. Finding them is too troublesome. Since the Holy Judgment Night Order is in London, why not let them come to us? Under the crimson cloak, Lin Chia's fist gradually tightened. Crackling sounds emanated from his bones and his aura rapidly surged. Seeing this, Shen Qingzhu's expression changed. As if realizing something, he pulled Wu Quan back several hundred meters. Lin Chia took half a step back, raised his right fist high. Just this action alone stirred up a howling gale, making his cloak flutter violently. The next moment, that fist tore through the void, churning the air into a distorted vortex and smashed into the ground. Boom! Thunder roared across the ruins from level ground. The entire city of London violently shook, and a visible ripple of force swept across tens of kilometers, completely collapsing the remaining building outlines around the four of them. Wu Quan felt his vision blur as the hurricane swept up his body, nearly lifting him into the air. He had to use the power of Emperor of Dominion to forcibly control his body to stay grounded. Isn't this a bit too dramatic? Wu Quan shielded his eyes with his arm and couldn't help asking. What's there to fear? Shen Qingzhu said calmly. Even if the Supreme God came today, they couldn't do anything to us. The dominance in Shen Qingzhu's words made Wu Quan's heart leap with joy. Indeed, Brother Qingzhu was still the same Brother Qingzhu. Even if he seemed more reserved on the outside, he remained sharp and aggressive inside. But Shen Qingzhu was telling the truth. With him, Lin Chia, and number 27 together, they could escape even if surrounded by supreme gods. As for main gods, they could kill them one by one. In the swirling dust, the crimson figure slowly stood straight, gazing into the distance. Boom! A deep rumbling sound came from afar, like the growl of beasts rapidly approaching. They're coming, Lin Chia said calmly. As the dust covering the ground gradually dispersed, more than 10 dazzling white lights cut through the night, so bright they hurt the eyes. At the end of the rugged road, a convoy of heavy motorcycles was roaring toward them. The low-slung bodies of the bikes hugged the ground as they flew, their streamlined shapes elegant yet fierce. On these motorcycles were white figures clad in heavy armor. The surface of the armor flowed with faint luminous patterns, emanating a mysterious aura. Upon seeing these armors, number 27's eyes narrowed. Knights ride motorcycles? Wu Quan raised an eyebrow. This is the mist. Horses of flesh and blood couldn't survive here. Motorcycles are all they can ride. Shen Qingzhu unhurriedly took out a cigarette from his pocket and lit it, watching the motorcycles gradually come to a stop, and couldn't help but praise. I have to say they look pretty cool. The motorcycle stopped in front of the deep pit. The leading figure dismounted, and beneath the armor, his gaze fell upon Lin Chia in the center of the crater, his brows slightly furrowing. I thought a Klein level or higher mystery had appeared, but it turns out to be a human. Can humans really possess such terrifying power? In the pit, the figure wearing the deep red cloak slowly walked toward the group. Seeing his movement, the knights' expressions changed. The patterns on their armor lit up in succession, releasing a powerful aura. Shen Qingzhu sensed their aura, his eyebrows slightly raised. Most of them actually have infinite auras and a few Klein levels. Is it the enhancement from those armors? It should be, number 27's voice sounded. Those armors have the aura of Chloe's power. Just as the knights were preparing to attack, the leading knight suddenly raised his hand, signaling them not to act rashly. He was a knight wearing red and white armor with a golden cross imprinted on his chest. A western longsword hung at his waist. Though not particularly burly, he exuded a sharp, imposing presence. You are the Holy Judgment Knights, aren't you? Lin Chia stopped in front of him and slowly spoke. Yes, the knight nodded. I am Charles, the Knight Commander of the Holy Judgment Knights. Who are you? Head of the Special Operations Division of the Great Xia Night Watchers, Lin Chia. Great Xia. Charles spoke with surprise. Is that the legendary nation untouched by the mist pollution? Hearing this description, Lin Chia felt a strange sensation in his heart, but he nodded calmly. That's right. That nation is quite far from London. You've traveled such a long distance to get here. What brings you here? I'm looking for someone. Who? Chloe. The moment Lin Chia's words fell, the knights' bodies trembled slightly. Then they suddenly gripped their weapons tightly, the patterns on their armor lighting up again as murderous intent swept through the air. Charles's voice also grew increasingly cold. What business do you have with the Holy Maiden? Seeing the knight's intense reaction, Shen Qingzhu, standing behind Lin Chia, narrowed his eyes, exhaled a puff of smoke, then dropped his cigarette butt and crushed it underfoot. The next moment, the pressure of a main god suddenly descended. The main god's pressure weighed on the knights' hearts. Their faces changed beneath their armor and they instinctively stepped back. But moments later they gripped their weapons tightly and stood their ground again, their killing intent growing even sharper. They've got some backbone, Shen Qingzhu remarked with surprise. Lin Chia turned and gave Shen Qingzhu a look. The latter immediately understood and withdrew his aura. At the same time, the tense knights finally relaxed, their backs already soaked with cold sweat. Among them, only Charles remained standing firmly in place, not retreating a single step. He glanced at Shen Qingzhu and spoke in a low voice. Even gods have been mobilized. What exactly do you want to do? Rest assured we mean no harm to Chloe. We just want to meet her. Lin Chia's voice softened somewhat. Shen Qingzhu had already shown their strength, and now it was his turn to gradually dissolve the knight's wariness. You've seen our strength. If we had ill intentions we could have used force directly. I wouldn't be negotiating with you here, would I? Charles frowned deeply, his gaze sweeping over Lin Chia and his three companions, lost in thought. After a long while he nodded. "Fine, follow me." Hearing this response, the many knights behind him seemed somewhat bewildered. They approached him about to say something more, but Charles had already mounted his motorcycle, the roaring engine breaking the night silence. Seeing this, the other knights could only return to their vehicles and follow behind Charles, howling toward some part of London. Lin Chia's group exchanged glances, then transformed into streaks of shadows, following closely behind. The knights traveled through the ruins for about 10 minutes. Finally, a faint light appeared in the distant darkness. Lin Chia squinted. It was a towering cathedral with a magnificent dome rising among castle-like towers. White stone statues stood at the corners of the cathedral, resembling figures from Western religious traditions. The faint light emanated from the colored glass windows of the cathedral, gently swaying in the night like candlelight. Seeing this, Lin Chia's face showed surprise. He had thought the knights survived in the mist by living underground, but now it seemed this cathedral was their shelter. Strangely, the mist that enveloped the entire city of London did not penetrate the cathedral, as if an invisible barrier kept it at bay. "It's a bit like a miniature version of Great Xia's miracle wall." Shen Qingzhu's gaze swept over the cathedral. "It seems whoever set up this cathedral was no ordinary person." The knights' motorcycles entered the area around the cathedral and slowly parked. Just as Lin Chia was about to step into the cathedral grounds, he suddenly paused. He looked up at the towers of the cathedral, hostility appearing in his eyes. "Lower your weapons, they are guests." Just as Lin Chia was about to speak, Charles's voice came from below the cathedral. Charles had removed the helmet part of his armor, revealing a weathered western face. His black, slightly curly hair fluttered in the wind as he shouted at the cathedral towers. Hearing his voice, the knights hidden in the towers gradually withdrew their aura and disappeared without a trace. Wu Quan's secretly raised hand also lowered. "Just some routine security measures, don't take offense." Charles parked his motorcycle and walked up to Lin Chia's group. "Come, I'll take you inside." Seeing that Charles truly meant no harm, Lin Chia relaxed somewhat and followed him into the cathedral. The interior of the cathedral was far larger than it appeared from outside. The high, arched golden dome was at least 100 meters above the ground. Colorful paintings covered the arched hall on both sides. Even in the dim candlelight, one could still feel their grandeur and magnificence. Every dozen meters in the hall stood an armored knight. Seeing Charles bringing people in, they first showed surprise, then respectfully saluted. "Did you build this cathedral?" Lin Chia asked while examining the paintings on both sides. "No." Charles shook his head. "This church was built at the end of the 17th century. After the mist descended, it remained abandoned until a few years ago when St. Chloe led us here and transformed it into our dwelling place within the mist." "Was it also Chloe who created the barrier that dispels the mist here?" "That's right, only the saint could perform such a miracle." Charles's eyes revealed a fanatical reverence. "When did Chloe, your saint, arrive here?" Number 27 asked with a frown, following behind Lin Chia. "About 6 or 7 years ago," Charles answered. "If not for Lady Saint, we might have been trapped forever in that human circle." "You were previously kept in the human circle?" "Yes, it was an extremely dangerous small world. We had to bathe our bodies in the blood of divine beasts to gain power, and we could only survive by sticking together. The Knight Order was established during that time." Lin Chia finally understood how these knights had survived the mist. They were residents of the human circle, essentially similar to Amamiya Haruki and the others, though with a somewhat different power system. Just then, as if remembering something, he asked, "Do you know Jinian?" "Jinian? The silver-haired girl?" Charles nodded. "Yes, I know her. She originally wanted to take us to Utopia, but we refused. We preferred to follow in the saint's footsteps. However, she did take one of our knight commanders with her." In Lin Chia's mind, the image of the blonde knight he had seen in the Shangxia Association immediately surfaced. So he had once been a member of the Holy Judgment Knight Order? No wonder he could display such powerful abilities using only his physical body. The four followed Charles through the church for several minutes, finally stopping in front of a tightly closed door. "The saint is inside," Charles said with utmost seriousness. "Remember, once inside you must not speak loudly. Do not try to wake the saint and do not get too close to her. Understand? Wake her." Hearing this word, Lin Chia keenly sensed something. Is she sleeping? Or, once you go in you'll understand. Charles placed both hands on the door's surface, his arm muscles bulging as he slowly pushed open the heavy door without making the slightest sound. Through the gradually widening gap, everyone could finally see what was behind the door. It was a spacious sanctuary. Hundreds of candles arranged around the room illuminated it brightly. In the center of the sanctuary, on a stone platform, a red-haired young woman lay quietly on a snow-white velvet surface, her eyes closed as if asleep. Upon seeing the young woman, number 27's brows furrowed slightly beneath his hood. "So that's Chloe?" Lin Chia's gaze fell on the young woman's face. Although she was still in slumber, her face, like carved white jade, emanated an aura of serene elegance, like an elf from the heavenly realm, sacred and inviolable. "What happened to her?" Lin Chia asked in a lowered voice. "Lady Saint has fallen into a deep slumber." Deep slumber. We don't know the details. Before Lady Saint fell into slumber, she told us that she needed to fulfill a promise, and instructed us not to wake her no matter what happens, Charles answered. Lin Chia glanced back at number 27, who had furrowed his brows, lost in thought. "How long has she been asleep?" 5 years. Hearing this answer, Lin Chia's expression turned somewhat helpless. If Chloe had been in slumber for 5 years and couldn't be awakened, how could he ask her about the files? "May I go up and take a closer look?" "No." Charles's expression immediately turned serious. "I have already fulfilled your request to see Lady Saint. Please do not disturb her slumber any further. Leave immediately." Charles placed one hand on the hilt of his sword and gestured toward the door with his other hand. Shen Qingzhu and the others looked back at Lin Chia, seemingly waiting for his decision. After all, if Lin Chia wanted to use brute force to take Chloe away, they could certainly do it. After a long silence, Lin Chia nodded. "All right, we'll leave now." Charles's expression relaxed slightly. Just as he was about to lead Lin Chia and the others out of the sanctuary, something unexpected happened. The red-haired young woman sleeping on the snow-white velvet suddenly trembled her eyelashes, and in the next moment, a terrifying white light burst forth from her body, instantly engulfing half the sanctuary and shooting up like flames. In the dead silence of London's ruins, a pillar of white light tore the Black Night in two. As this white light appeared, Lin Chia and the others' expressions changed dramatically. Even Charles hadn't expected that Chloe, who had been in deep slumber for 5 years, would suddenly release such a terrifying aura. Amidst the surging white light, a shadowy figure darted out and precisely struck Lin Chia's chest. Lin Chia felt his vision go dark and immediately lost consciousness. In the mist, within the canyon's reflection, a dark figure holding a model of a mental hospital sat at the top of the canyon, brows furrowed. Streams of chaotic divine light circled around him, seeping into the model through the patterns on his palm. Just then, as if sensing something, he suddenly opened his eyes and looked toward a certain direction. Yelland, "No, that's not right, this aura is much weaker. But it's definitely his power. Could it be a proxy?" Kus put away the model of the god's mental hospital and closed his eyes to sense carefully for a moment. He actually still has a proxy in this world. That could be troublesome. He was about to stand up when his gaze fell on the hospital model in his palm, causing him to hesitate. Even if Yelland had a proxy, it was just a human. Even if left alone, it shouldn't cause any major problems. What's truly important right now is to fully control this hospital. After pondering for a long time, his gaze fell on the mist-shrouded cliff opposite him and a faint smile curled his lips. Truth, go eliminate that proxy. From the churning mist, a figure in a black robe slowly emerged. He coldly glanced at us and said, "Why should I listen to you? Yelen's power is tricky and might affect us. As one of us, shouldn't you contribute your strength to this matter?" Kiss spoke leisurely. "Or are you simply trying to stall for time with me?" Kiss' eyes narrowed and a terrifying pressure enveloped Qingyu. And Qingyu frowned slightly. After staring at us for a moment, he withdrew his gaze and turned to walk toward the outside of the mist. "You can test me, but this is the last time.